know, that whole setup shit is whack. Robert, what's going on? I thought you ain't love
Robert
me no more,
Garcia.
man.
Why would you say that?
I mean, I don't know. I've been trying to get this interview for like 2 months. But I know you're busy,
Yeah,
man.
you never
I'm
even.
busy too. I
This is the
never
first
got
time I hear
back
from
to
you.
you. No, I never got back to you, man. Truth be told, I never got back after we agreed. But better. It's better because
Okay.
we waited and now there's a lot to talk about. You and Bill, you guys are on two different sides of the street when it comes to this situation with Jose Ramirez and the hospital. Then I just interviewed Hector Bermudez and Rohan Polanco, who they want the Delgado fight. They Rohan specifically is saying that he doesn't like the Delgado beat two Dominicans, and he's willing to go back down to 40 and fight your guy.
He wants to be the
Lindo,
third one. He
he
wants to be
want
the third
he
one.
wants to be the third one, but he said is gonna stop with him.
He's a fucking badass, man. I like that dude. He fucking good. He's a strong motherfucker.
Do you think he can make
But he's
140?
that's what I'm saying. He's the one. He's fucking. He looked really good at 147. I don't know why he would even consider. I think he just did it just to get some names out there. Mention my name because I seen a little video where he mentions my name and stuff like that. So it's part of his part plan. You just to call a guy, but fuck, he looked good at 147, man. Why would he want to come down to 140? At 47, there's fucking badass fights for him, man. He's a good fighter, man.
So what's next for Lindolfo?
Yeah, right now, I just got in here in San Diego for the fights this weekend, so I'll have a talk with Top Rank, see what they have planned out. But right now, I there's nothing out there for him.
Well, so what can you tell us? Obviously, I've watched your interview and all the clips. You said that everyone had to go to the ambulance, that it wasn't just Jose Ramirez. Why do you think there's no pictures of anyone else?
Look, maybe because then the rest of the guys, they don't follow the rules. They don't care. They do whatever they want because Haney's attorney. I don't think he'll lie, and I know him very well. He won't lie. He was at the rules meeting after the fight, and I think it's already been confirmed by some people from Golden Boy Promotion, stuff like that. That was the case. We were told, the locker rooms were in the hotel, 2 blocks away. So after the fight, as you guys probably know, or people in boxing know, that win or lose, you have to see the doctor after your fights. In every show, wherever you fight, wherever you go, it doesn't matter which promoter it is, which arena it is, which city it is, which commission it is. Every fighter sees a doctor after the fights, win or lose. We could win in a first round knockout without getting hit one single time. After the fight, you still see the doctor right away. The doctor obviously releases you. So we were told the night before in the rules meeting. I stay for every rules meeting. I don't have my assistant stay. I don't have my nobody. I do it myself because I want to see, I want to hear, I want to know every single rule. Sometimes commissions change from one day to another. So I asked questions about hand wraps. I asked questions about gloves. All that stuff. So I go to all the rules meeting. So we were told every single fighter has to see the doctor. And since there's no locker rooms in Times Square, in the middle of Times Square, there's no locker rooms. There's the ambulance. Every fighter has to go into the ambulance to get checked by the doctor after your fight, and then you get released. That's exactly what happened. We got in there. They took us straight to the back. Got in the ambulance. He got checked out. Got released. Took the suburban. The suburban drove us 2 blocks to the hotel. That's what it was. That's what we were told the night before, and that's what we did.
And what could you tell us about that fight? Obviously, Haney is getting criticized for a lackluster performance, but Ramirez wasn't cutting. He would be there, but not throw. Like he would let Haney go to his right, not throw the jab, or let him go to not throw the right. What was going on? Why do you think he was reluctant to let his hands go?
Look, I agree. I agree with you. Ramirez had a really good training camp. Actually, we were doing. He was doing really good in sparring. The guys that I had were actually boxing pretty good, and he was doing really good. But it's a different story. You're in sparring. You're in the gym. You're in your gym. Guys are coming in to spar you. So this is your house. I think when you come to the big fights, it's just different being in there. You have a different mentality. Smaller gloves. I don't know. Jose's been a warrior his whole life. Jose has fought and been a warrior. He's shown the world that he's one of those guys that loves to fight and not afraid of anybody. But Haney was also boxing. I'm not criticizing, Haney's skills. Haney's a great, very talented fighter, and he was moving from one side to the other. The moment he was moving to his right, and maybe Jose was thinking of cutting the ring, he was already going to the opposite way, right away. So it wasn't easy either. It wasn't easy to just, go out there and rush. Like Jose said, how am I gonna look like a street fighter and maybe make mistakes, maybe lose my balance because of my footwork and stuff like that. Jose also mentioned that, and that's being smart about it. But sometimes you have to be that street fighter to beat those type of fighters, but that wasn't that night. It's just the way boxing is. Honestly, I have nothing but respect for the Haneys. The dad has always given me respect. The kid also, we always joke around, talk. Never had any bad differences or anything like that. But I did not like that he post that picture saying that he pretty much sent Jose to the hospital when that was not the case. He's got a very smart, very good attorney behind him, and that attorney should tell him that was in the rules meeting. You can't make shit up.
Um, man, I just drew a blank. I had a follow. Oh yes, you were there firsthand. What did you think of Haney's performance? People are kind of, the internet is saying he lost something in the Ryan fight. He's not the same since the Ryan fight. He looked timid. You're a trainer, former fighter, former champion. How did you see Haney coming back after that year layoff?
Look, it was a year layoff, and yes, he took a beating. It doesn't matter if it's not in his record. He did take a beating against Ryan Garcia, so he was a little timid. He was a little, I don't want to say afraid, because you already won in the ring. Fighters going there, they know what it takes. So I don't want to say he's afraid, but he was a little timid. He was worried about getting hit, but it could be just this one fight. Hopefully, his next fight he comes out different. I know that the fans, the critics, the media, they're not easy to convince. They're gonna go on him hard, but he just has to maybe come back soon and prove everybody wrong and do something different. I'm surprised that Haney's dad, Bill, came out saying stuff like that about Jose in the ambulance, stuff like that. When after the fight, we actually talked really good, and uh, he mentioned my gym, wanting maybe come by and check out because my new gym, we opened up a new gym and stuff like that. And I invited him too. I told him, look, we could talk. Let's talk. I think he needs a different environment too. So I'm not trying to get him to my camp, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But they're great people. They've always been good to me. So at least give them an advice. At least tell them what I think he should do. I'm not asking that I want to train him, because that's not my style. I don't try to go out there and recruit fighters on my own. Whenever they need my, especially stars. Stars like that, they've done a great job. So I'm not gonna go recruit a big star. Oh, come to my gym. No, if I could just give them a good advice and let them decide what they want to do. But everything was cool until that picture came out, where he knows he's lying, man. He knows he's lying about that. Nobody went to the hospital. Every fighter had to do it, and then he says he did not do it. Well, maybe because, man, he does whatever he wants with the commission, because in the locker room it was pretty much the same thing. We get into the locker room, and they tell us we couldn't, actually we didn't bring our own water. They had water in the table for us, but it was hotel water, with a hotel label or something. And they're like, the commission right away tells me, nope, you cannot use this water. You got to use the water that we supply, that we bring in. And we did it. I did my water, prepared my bucket with ice and all that crap. And then when it was time to change corners to see the hand wraps, my assistant, that I send over, he tells me, he comes back to the locker room and tells me, well, they have nothing but sport Nike water bottles in the bucket. I'm like, no, they're not supposed to. They didn't allow me to do that, so why would they allow them? And they got away with it. We try to argue that, why did they make me change my water bottles and bring the ones that the commission supplied? And they said, okay, well, he could have his own water up until he does the drug test. And he did the drug test right before we walked out into the ring. So little things like that, that I know, when you're a superstar, you get away with stuff like that.
So you would be willing to be part of the camp, or do you think that your camp house is what he needs because you have the style of fighter to get him, you know, prepared?
No, 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 no. I'm not trying to get into his camp or bring him into my camp. No, 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 no. There's so much that they could do on their own, but they just need to add a few more things. Maybe I just want to, because I'm telling you, before and after, they've always been great people to me. They've always respected me. We always talk really good. I've never had any differences with them. They're from California. I'm always going to support California fighters. But I just want to talk to them. They respect me. So we after the fight, we shook hands. Congratulations, this and that. They mentioned my gym. I said, look, you guys are more than welcome. I would actually like to talk to you guys. Let's have a good conversation. But it's just to give them advice, not because I want them in my camp. There's a few fighters that I have in my camp that I actually would love to face him in the future.
Um, so what's next for Jose? You're again trainer, former fighter, former champion. The internet loves to say that Jose is washed and that he should retire. What do you see?
Well, look, I think, like I told you, during training camp, everything went good. Everything went good. He was sparring like we wanted him to, putting pressure, throwing a lot of punches. I think Haney's style, the way he fought, was just very difficult for him to cut the ring because, like I said, Haney from the right to the left, instantly he was moving side to side and moving around. So it was hard for Jose to even cut the ring. It was very hard, but training camp went really good. So Rick Marigan, his manager, Golden Boot Promotions, I haven't really talked to them about what's going to happen next, what Jose wants to do. I've been texting Jose back and forth, but just about family, how's your kids, stuff like that. We haven't even brought up the conversation about what he's going to do next, if he's going to fight again, if he wants to, we haven't mentioned that. So I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be up to him, his family. Then once they decide something, if they have something, I'm sure they'll call me and ask for my opinion. But as of right now, after a big fight like that, I just let my fighters rest. I don't want to talk boxing. I just, like I said, family, kids, stuff like that. That's it. Nothing to do with what's next for him.
Jump in. Don't let me hold you up.
um, Robert Garcia, nice to meet you. First of all, I just want to say hello, champ. And congratulations on the new gym. I saw you on the top rank with your fighter there, Raymond, and I just want to ask, how do you think that he's looking coming into this fight right here, and does you guys feel good about this fight in the IBF Eliminator, and do you believe in that?
Look, I'm happy. I'm very excited about this fight because it's an opportunity for Raymond. I Raymond grew up in Southern California, fighting all the the names out there. People don't, he was never the amateur superstar, so people didn't really recognize him. But he's got wins over, all these guys. He through the amateurs, he beat everybody. He's always been very talented. The kid, his dad has done a great job. Gabriel Murataya Senior. They've done a great job with him. And since he joined my camp a few years ago, when they started the pro career, he's shown that he's one of the most talented fighters that I work with right now, and that I probably ever worked. Because I've always said it. I said it a few years back with Bam. This kid's special. Keep an eye on. And I've been saying the same thing about Raymond. I think Raymond, he's dedicated, he's focused, and this is his opportunity. Because look, it does. You said it's a title eliminator. This is a title fight. It's a IBF interim
Yeah.
title. Lomachenko has to fight the winner before October, I believe. He's got till October. Word is Lomachenko is just not going to fight again. He already put his house for sale in Camarillo. He's selling his home. So those are signs that he's thinking of going back to his country, and maybe, unless he wants to do camps in his country, and maybe he wants, I don't know. I have no idea. But injuries are already part of his, career at his age. He doesn't have nothing to prove. Lomachenko has to fight the winner. So, if he doesn't, then the winner elevates to full champion. So for
Right.
us, this is the world title fight. And if
Mm.
not, then it'd be awesome to share the ring with Lomachenko. Lomachenko, two-time gold medalist, three, four division champion. Come on, man. It's he's pound for pound. He was one of the best fighters in the world for many years. So it would be awesome to share the ring against him. So if that happens, but if not, he decides he's not going to fight. He wants to retire. Then we become, or well, I don't want to say we, because we still haven't fight. The winner
Right.
becomes the full champion, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, um, you know my style of interviewing, man. I like to be equal. They call Frank Martin a 28-year-old prospect. Why do you think Murataya is taking so long to get here? He's also 28. When Frank fought Tank, that was the running joke, quote unquote. He's a 28-year-old prospect. Why, if Murataya is as good as you say, and have people been telling me this for years? I've seen someone in Las Vegas over here in the gym. He's like, "Oh, my cousin's Murataya. You sleeping on him?" I'm telling you, he beat everybody in the amateurs. I've been hearing this, but why hasn't the leash been taken off?
Look, when he first started, when he first came to my gym, he only had a few fights, a couple fights in his professional record. But look, he wasn't that one kid that every promoter was after, because nobody knew who he was. He was never signed to a top promoter. When I first brought him into my camp, I was putting him on my own shows, that where, just to build up the record. I was asking around, asking promoters for favors. I went through different promoters, and finally Top Rank gave me the opportunity on one of their cards. And the first fight he had for them, right with everybody, who's this kid? They were all asking, who's this kid? We definitely want to sign him. So that's how it started. He wasn't that prospect from the amateurs that everybody was after. Even though he pretty much has beat most of the big names out there right now. They never really, he was never that he was never mentioned. And once we signed him with Top Rank, his career has been going well. They've done a great job. Bruce Trampler and Brad Goodman. And by that time, when that happened, he was already like 25. So it's been like 3 years ago. So you know what I mean? It's not like this kid was at 18 coming off the amateurs and everybody signed him, and then a top promoter signed him. So, it would have been 2, 3 years. He would have been a champion. It was a few years late, but he's still young. He's still strong. He's 28. He's in his prime. So I think, I don't call him a prospect. Maybe because he hasn't fought for the world title, but I don't call him a prospect. He's a solid guy.
How far do you see him going?
Well, look, I think Murataya has potential of doing what, starting at lightweight. won't be a lightweight for that long, maybe a few fights and then go up to 140. I think he could be a three division champion towards the end of his career, maybe even possibly a four division champion. The higher the weight classes, the harder it is because there's more pounds that you have to add. Smaller weight classes, every 3 pounds you have a different division with a higher with the 6 7 pound difference each weight division. So I do see him being a three division champion, possibly a four division champion. But obviously, because of his talent, the way I see him, what I see in the gym. But we got to go one by one. This is our first one this weekend, and if everything goes well, we come up with a win. Then I think the kid is he's got potential of being one of the best fighters out there, pound for pound, in the future.
So it sounds like you're also the manager. With that being said, will you let him unify with Keyshawn, right? They're both in the same division. If he gets the interim and then it gets elevated, they're both on the same network and promotional company.
That's why would we not want that? It's they both fight for the same promoter. We could say, oh no, we want Tank, but it's not going to be that easy because of the promotions, because of the type of fights. These guys, Keyshawn, Raymond, both fight for top rank. It's easy. It's an easy fight to make. Plus, they both want it. I know Keyshawn has already. I talked to Keyshawn. I've had conversations with him, and we all agree. That's the fight to be made. Especially, we first have to win this fight, and then beat Loma if that's the case. If Loma decides to vacate, then that's the next conversation we're gonna have with Top Rank. After this fight Saturday, say we come out with a win, because like I said, I don't like to look ahead. We come out with a win. My next conversation with Top Rank is going to be Loma. I can't talk Keyshawn because Loma's obligated to fight the winner. So I have to go after
Mm.
my next conversation is going to be Loma. What's going to happen? Let's do it. Let's plan it out. They have till October. So that's my conversation. I can't talk Keyshawn because Loma has to be our next opponent.
Sure. Um, Obviously, you opened up the gym in Moreno Valley. Did you build that from the ground up, or was it an existing, structure? And yeah, like what sort of like how do you feel? Like how does that expand the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy? How does that fit into your vision?
Look, the main thing was to get a bigger location and more of a public area where we could have a lot of kids in the gym. In Oxnard, I had a great gym in Oxnard. You know, people kids were coming in and working with the high schools in Oxnard was beautiful. But since I moved to Riverside, the gym where we started was a private property. So I had the gym in the back of a big, of a house, big property. So it came to a point where we just it
Outgrew it.
overpacked the place, outgrew it. Cars, traffic, parking started to become a problem. So I was time to go out there and look for a bigger area, public area. And we connected with the mayor of Moreno Valley, and he's the one that told me go to this place, and it's actually in a mall, in Moreno Valley Mall. But we get the it's like one of the first buildings, so we don't have to enter the mall to get into my gym. We have our own doors on the outside, but it is in the mall. And parking, unbelievable. We could do events, we could do amateur shows, we could do whatever we want in that gym because the city really gave us the green light for everything. The city also came up with a program for kids, troubled kids, kids that are not doing good, parents that might not be able to afford a membership. So all that is part of what was part of the plan, part of the deal, where the city is going to provide us uh, uh, for kids that can't afford a membership, or kids that are in trouble. We're also having conversations with the Moreno Valley School District also, because that's the main thing I want. The gym, I could have had my pros and do the same thing I'm doing in the new gym. I still be doing it in my old gym with I still had my same 3 rings. My fathers were getting ready, and everything was still the same. It's about the kids now, growing up. Plus, in Moreno Valley, it's a city that needs something like that for the youth, and with the city, and now the school district, who is very interested in doing something too, doing a program with my gym. That's the main thing. That's the main reason I decided to open up something public.
So to be clear, the gym that we seen the footage of Jose sparring, that's the new gym, correct? And the one that I'm screen sharing?
Yes, that is correct.
That's dope. So what happens to the old one? Do you selling it? You getting rid of it? You what happens to that?
No, that's already it's already going. We turned it into batting cages.
Really?
Yeah, that place was, it wasn't small either, and like I said, that area right there where that gym is at, it's a big baseball area. Baseball's huge in that area. So, my grandson is already playing baseball. My son and his girl and son and daughter, they moved into the camp house right there, so that's their house now, and the back is batting cages. So they're doing the business type of side, where teams come in, they rent out the facility to do. We have batting cages, we have pitching catchers. We have for a full worker, 10, 12 kids in the baseball team, and they could come in and participate, and work, and all could be working out at the same time. It's not like I just have one batting cage. There's 3 batting cages, and then two for pitching and catching only. So we have a full facility there for baseball teams. So that's what it is right now.
Man, you're amazing, bro. You're the entrepreneur for sure, man. Congratulations on all your success, for
Thanks, bro. But
sure.
it's not easy. But in this life, man, at least myself, I from my dad, everything he always did, everything, he everything he always dreamed of and thought about was his family, his kids. Leave something for them, and that's what I'm doing, man. I turned 50 in January, so I know it's it's not I'm not getting younger, so those are the things. Plus, I love baseball. I love baseball. I love boxing. I also love soccer. Soccer is probably my favorite sport,
Mm,
but it's also something with that I'm considering maybe doing indoor soccer, something like that. Because soccer's big in Southern California. Well, soccer is the biggest sport in the world, so soccer is something that I would also like to get into.
nice. I got Major Meter that says, how many current professional fighters do you train?
Look, we have in my gym, we have, I'd say, close to 30 professional fighters, maybe even more. But look, out of those 30, two or three might make it. That's just the way boxing is. It's not like maybe everybody has potential. Sometimes the least expected one is the one that makes it. Why? Because he's dedicated, he's focused. There's little things. Sometimes one punch makes a big difference. That kid that has that crazy power, maybe he doesn't have the same skills as the rest, but that is something that makes a big difference. So you never know. But yeah, we have around 30 professional fighters in my gym.
Wow. Um, LBC's Most Wanted says, hey, Robert, what's up? Can Virgil get the Bachram fight next? And he says, and what is Bam cooking up for Puma?
Look, we have with Virgil, there's already talks between Rick Marigan, obviously the team of Rick Marigan and Golden Boy, about his next fight. We don't know if it's, we don't know the exact date or anything, but we're planning sometime in September, maybe early October, for Virgil to come back. There's been a few mentions out there. There's no nothing confirmed, because there's plenty of time. But sooner than later, people will find out, what's going on. Virgil's doesn't matter. Virgil wants to fight anybody. He doesn't care. He fights whoever's out there available, because there's also fights that might be harder to make because of the different promotions, different plans for other fighters also. So we're letting I let Rick Morrigan and Golden Boy handle that. They just ask for my opinion. I think I give them my opinion. I like this guy better. Maybe this one's going to be better, and we go from there, But right now, there's big things for Virgil. Bam, we have one fight. We can't think of Puma right now. Puma fights this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll stay. Obviously, we got to see that. But Bam has to fight Kaful. He's unifying July 19th, if I'm not mistaken. And after that, if Puma's available, then we would love to. My plan is for Bam to become undisputed, because I really want that undisputed, but it has to be something sooner than later, because Bam can't be a 115 pounder for many, many more fights. I'm giving it 2, 3 more fights, and he has to move up to bantamweight. So hopefully we could be able to get those fights. He's already unifying this fight in July. Uh, Hopefully Puma wins, and if that happens, we fight him quick before the end of the year, and then our last fight before we move up to bantamweight could be for the IBF. Hopefully, because I do really want Bam to become undisputed at 115, and then after that, move on to bantamweight, which is the bigger fights, the bigger names, the stronger guys too, bigger challenges for Bam. That's what Bam loves. He loves those challenges.
Could you ever
It,
see him going up against Naoya Inoue?
that's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Is it too much to ask him to ask for that fight and jump up?
I can't say now because Bam's still at 115, but I could almost probably tell you guys that fight will happen. There's no way that fight shouldn't happen. I think Bam's moving up to 118, like I said, sooner than later, because if we don't have those unification fights, because sometimes promoters, work differently, and fighters maybe ask for too much money, and the fights will never happen. If there's no after Kafu, if there's no unification fight for Bam after that, then Bam's going to go to 118, because he's not going to waste his time waiting for somebody. He's going to go to 118. We might see Bam fight Kafu, and then after that, go to 118. Unless, like I said, unless there's those chances of unifying and becoming undisputed, then we'll hold. We'll hold on my 115. But if not, 118. And then right there, we're just one division apart. I think it's a fight that could happen. Um, I've thought about maybe 2 years, but we might we might be able to see this sooner. Never know.
In 118, there's another dangerous Japanese fighter there in Junto Nakatani.
Correct.
He has a multiple belts, and how would you see Bam Bam faring against a fighter such as Junto Nakatani with his height and reach?
We always have that conversation with Rudy Hernandez. Rudy Hernandez is, a great friend of ours, great friend of the family. Rudy Hernandez is the first man to be with me when I turned pro. I was 17 in Tokyo, Japan, and Rudy Hernandez is the one that cornered me, that trained me for that fight. So, we have a really good relationship. We're friends. We talk all the time. We have lunch together with him, myself, my dad, Mikey, my son. We always talk about it, and that's the fight that's also going to happen. Maybe that fight happens before well, Junto happens before Inui, obviously. But yeah, those are our fights out there. Bam doesn't say no to fights. He wants to fight the best. Sometimes he's actually embarrassed if there's no big name, or he rather not fight if it's not a big name. So those are all fights out there in the future. So we just got to,
Mm,
obviously go fight by fight. July, we
right.
got to think of Kafu first, and that's it.
So, coach, do you also have 5 fighters on this card, or is it the last card? Because you got Chop Chop is on this card, right? Then you got
Correct.
Murataya. So you
We
have a
have
few fighters.
Santillan
Santillán,
is also
that's
on this
right. He's
card.
also
Yes,
on this
yeah.
card.
So those are the three on this card. Yes.
Okay. And you had 5 before on the Phoenix card,
You know
right?
what? Yeah. When I have when I have you know, so many fighters and Top Rank or Matchroom or Golden Boy, they know that for them it's easier to put kind of put those fights together. Top Rank does their shows. They know they're gonna have 3 or 4 fighters on the same card, so they know it's gonna be kind of the same team. So they don't have to worry about dealing with so many different flights and this and that. So they always try to figure out where my fighters, more than 2 or 3 are on the same card. So it makes it easier for my team, but also for Top Rank, the commission. It just makes it a lot easier.
And with so many prospects, you got Chop Gonzalez, you have, Art Barrera. I mean, the list of prospects that you have goes on and on. Who's finding this talent, or are managers bringing it, or is all your managed fighters? And yeah, who's your talent scout?
They're all my managed fighters. They're all my fighters. I do get some, that come in once in a while. Manager brings them in. Like just recently, Curiel. Curiel just came in, and his manager Frank Espinosa brought him to me, and we had a good conversation. And now he's training in my gym. But most of the time, my son, Junior, my other assistant Chepe, they're the ones looking out in the amateurs. Mexican tournaments, the Southern California tournaments, and look, this is a good kid. Right.
You got a call. Bear with us.
Emiliano Alvarado, I have him at 7-0 right now, and he's a good prospect. He just turned 18, but I already have him 7-0. He's been fighting in Mexico. He's another one that I know has a bright future, and he's from Southern California.
And you have Jesus Martinez as well, another young kid.
Fighting
What's up
next
with
week,
him?
next Saturday. Yeah, well, he's fighting next week in San Antonio, Texas. So, I keep my guys busy, small shows. If I have to go to Mexico, put up a little bit of money, that's fine. I build up the record. I do my job as a trainer, manager, and
You got a call. Bear with us.
I think I gotta go pretty soon because I know there's
Yeah,
there's
no
a lot of phone
worries.
calls
No
right
worries,
now
man. We
for other
appreciate
stuff.
your
All
time.
right.
All right, coach. Thank you.
All right, guys. All right, guys. Thank you,
Nice to
guys.
meet
Thank
you,
you guys very
Coach.
much.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Yep.
He got busy. It is fight week, man. He's in the
Yeah.
hotel, as you can see. That's why the internet